that if he would have told us to chop wood, we would have done it also. It would have been one of the 630 mitzvahs. If it would have been an easy one or not an easy one, but it's not. So the Alter Rebbe says, what's the point in it? The other says, the point of it is not what we're doing, for whom we're doing. And this is basically the total commitment to the Almighty. So this is how it's before Shavuos. In general, on a personal level, when we come every day in the prayer, as mentioned earlier, there are 4 sections in the prayer, in the morning prayer. The 4 sections correspond, Kabbalah speaks about it a lot, Chassidus explains it very in length, that there are 4 different worlds. The famous 4 worlds are Asiya, Yitzira, Bria, and Atzilus. So these are 4 different worlds going from below to above. The first world, which is the section of davening, which speaks about the praising the Almighty, that is basically the Elam HaSiyah. Speaking about the physical creation, the beauty of the creation, how the whole creation sings to the Almighty, praises the Almighty. There are different anthologies mention that every animal has a song that they praise the Almighty every day. Shiras Ha'if, Shiras Ha'dah. So b'meila, when it comes to the prayer, this is basically the physical world, how we see the greatness of the Almighty in the physical world. Seeing it in the details of the creation. Then comes, after Baruch Hu, so then it's Elam HaYitzira. It's a higher world. It's a world of angels. That world expresses the emotions of the angels, love of the Almighty or fear of the Almighty. And that is why that part of the prayer we discuss the angels. We discuss the different groups of angels. There's the Srafim, the Chayes, Akedas, the Ifanim, which is a world for itself and a shir for itself. But Akopanim, just mentioning it by bypassing, this is the world of Yitzira, called the world of serving the Almighty with emotions. Then comes Krishma. The reading of the Shema is basically the union of Krishma, which is basically Elam Habriya. This is already understanding. This is the world where there are the intellectual angels that find themselves there. Namely, the 2 Malachim angels that they are in charge of thousands upon thousands of Malachim. One is called Malach Michal, one is called Malach Gavriel. One is in charge of 186,000 angels, another one is in charge of 151,000 angels. One group serves with fear, one group serves with love. So this is but they're the intellectual souls. They are in Elam Habriya, which is Bina, understanding, analyzing. What connection does it have to Krishma? Because Shema Yisrael also means not only hear, O Israel, but understand. Understand Israel. That Shema means also from the word understanding, as it's mentioned in different places in the prophets, Dabanok Shemei Avdecha, which means basically understanding. Then we finally come to the silent prayer, and that is the ultimate Shleimus, completion, climax of the whole prayer. And that is Shemoneh Esrei, the silent prayer that we are speechless and we say, Hashem Svasai Tiftach, open up my lips. In Kabbalah it's also mentioned, Chassidus mentions it not so often, that actually after Shemoneh Esrei, after the silent prayer, there's also a very deep level of nullification. In a sense, they say even more than Shemoneh Esrei. And that is when we say the Tachnun, confessing, and the covering our face is basically reflecting this level that we find ourselves in at that point. And after that, we start landing, as Kabbalah explains, landing back into the world, coming back and having a safe landing, that when we come to Aleinu L'Shabeach, we then pronounce and declare that the whole world is under the rulership of the Almighty, and it'll be the day that the Almighty will be the King in a revealed state. Getting now to the level of the 2 concepts of Ein Oid and Ein Oid Milvado. So basically they are 2 different concepts. There's one concept, as we mentioned earlier from Tanya, that V'yodata hayem b'shavei sel vavecha k'Hashem hu alikim b'shamayim mimal v'aloretz mitochas, that the Almighty is everywhere in the heaven above, v'aloretz mitochas, and also in the lower worlds. Einoi, there's nothing else. That's what literally the words Einoid means, nothing else. Then there's Einoid Milvado. Einoid Milvado means there's nothing else besides him, but with him. What is the difference? So the Rebbe explains in a very interesting way. When we say there's nothing besides him, but with him, means to say that the with him became part of him. In other words, there is nothing besides him, it became part of him. It is mitziyusim, the same way that the Almighty is on his own, nothing came before him. In the same sense, it's revealed in everything, that Einoid Milvado, that revealed how everything is godliness. There's nothing else. And in order that a person should reach the level from Einoid to Einoid Milvado, so a person goes through a certain stage, a stage of nullification. And the explanation for that is that it is similar to when you want to plant something. So you throw in the seeds into the ground, and then later it rots, everything rots in ground, and that's when it starts blossoming. In other words, the tree or anything else will not start growing unless it is actually rots in the ground. What is the reason for that? Because in order that from one entity another entity should take place, there needs to be a null in the middle. That is a state of nullification. It's called bittul. And that is in everything, that in order that a person should get from one stage to another, from one level to another, there's a union of a bittul in the middle, which is basically a state of nullification in which a person becomes a vessel to receive, to elevate and reach the higher level. So this is basically the difference. When we say Einoid, it means there's nothing else. There's nothing else besides him. Einoid Milvado means that there's nothing else, but with him there is. Where do we see it throughout the year? We see it in the difference between Tishrei, the month of Tishrei, which is the month of the holiday season, and after that. The month of Tishrei, people are, the Jewish nation, everybody, is involved in sacred matters. Here it's Rosh Hashanah, they're in shul all day. Here it's Yom Kippur, they're again in shul. Here is Sukkot, here they come with the lulav. Here they're coming to the Eat the Suda, the festive, the holiday meal, there's festive meal. There's always something. And then they go dancing. There's always, it's permeated the union of Simcha. Meruba b'meyades. It says the month of Tishrei is full of holidays. Holidays, a person is removed completely from it, from world and everything around them. This is called Einoid. There's nothing else. There's only godliness. Then comes, after that, Mitzoi Simchas Teira, a person goes out in the world. Goes out in the world. In Chassidus there's V'yankiv Holach Lidarke. What does it mean? Goes back into world. Goes away from the holiday season, completely a different world. It's called I don't know if the word is a little mess. Okay. No. It's called a diluk, jumping back into world. Why? Because looking back, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, a person is similar to a malach. That's what it says Bechlal in Shulchan Aruch. Yom Kippur, Yidden are similar to malachim, to angels. When it comes after that, it becomes a descent. There's a descent. And this is basically after Simchas Teira. There is a world. But Einoid Milvado. A person reveals that in the world itself there's nothing besides him alone, the Almighty. And this is the function, the mission that a person has to reveal in the world. And this is basically, the Rebbe says, and through this Aveda, it adds a quality in the person that the person is able, this contributes to the spirituality of the person, that the person should be able to excel to a higher level on a spiritual level. Not only that, but even the world itself, the animal soul, will also help. Which means that he also takes worldly matters and they all become part of Kedusha. Which this is basically but part of the sacred sanctity that is in the world. This is basically what our mission is. Our mission is to reveal in world that Einoid Milvado, that eventually world itself becomes Kedusha, is one with the Almighty. And this is also the difference between the first parsha of Krishma and the second parsha of Krishma. First parsha of Krishma, we say B'chol Meidecha, with your utmost. So our sages tell us in tractate, B'chol Meidecha means also with all your money. The second one is, but still, there is a world. The second one is, that it becomes one with Kedusha, with the Almighty. Which means not only that it helps to connect to the Almighty, but it basically becomes part of Kedusha, and that's the second part of Krishma. V'asafta digonecha, you're gathering your harvest. This is all when it becomes part of your property. It becomes part of the property of a Yid, and therefore it becomes godliness. There's an interesting story that's mentioned in the tractate of Chulin, that there was Rab Chanina, one of the sages, and there was a mischief. Some machshefet said that she wanted to do certain mischief on Rab Chanina, and she told him to take sand under his feet, and he said then, Eineid Milvado Ksiv. It says Eineid Milvado, and this is how he made to nothing what she planned to put him into trouble. Loman, so the Arizal asked the question, that it says the mischief means, kshafim in Hebrew means that they, kavyochel, they are given a power to weaken the keach shalamayla. So it says, Rab Chanina had a very great merit, so therefore he was able to manage. So he says, no, it wasn't so much that Rab Chanina was depending on his own merits, but he was sure on his own that it won't happen. In other words, not he based it on his merits, but because originally, in essence, Tumah, impurity, does not have its own energy. But the Almighty gave them a certain energy, so therefore, Rab Chanina did not rely on the merit of his Torah and good deeds, but he knew and he calculated in his own neshama that this amunah, this belief that he has in his heart, is in such a way that Eineid Milvado Yisbara. There's nothing, there's no other keach, there's no other entity that has any power. And therefore he was sure that this mischief will not work on him. And this is what he said, Le mistaya milsach. He tells this person that wanted to do the mischief, he says, it won't help because it already says Eineid Milvado. If it says Eineid Milvado, so there's no way that anything else could fit in even edgewise, because the Almighty is the one that's in charge of everything. And this is also actually connected by divine providence with the inyan of Pesach. By Pesach and the plagues, we find that when it came to certain plagues, the mischiefs, the machashvim in Egypt were trying to emulate it, copy it, and some of them they managed. But then came one of them that they said, no, they can't cope with it because it is something which is less than a certain dimension, certain size, and therefore they cannot cope with it. Which this was already in the time of Egypt, that already then they saw Etzba Elikimhi. It was Etzba Elikim was a finger of the Almighty. I'll end up with the inyan that there was a chassid once, that a chassid of the Alter Rebbe, and he was in charge of a business. He had a wood business. I'm talking about 7 generations ago. So we would always have to write up the totals, an inventory, what's going on. So he would have one total for everything. After the whole total, he would write, by the end, adding up everything, he didn't write the figure, he wrote Eineid Milvado. There's nothing else besides the Almighty. So the Eibishter should help that since we find ourselves in Pesach, that it should be B'atzlocha Rabbah, with all the inyanim in Aifim from Yitzias Mitzrayim, and a new Tkufa, and which before that yet, we should have the Gula Mitzvah Vashleima, the ultimate and true redemption, and B'meila will all be, although now we're Ashata Avdin, but L'shon Haba, it doesn't have to be L'shon Haba. L'shon Haba means even the next minute in the future, and it'll be L'shon Haba that next year will already have been in Eretz Yisrael.
Amen.